Welcome to the Mount Pleasant Magazine podcast, featuring discussions and interviews about the people, places, and events that make Mount Pleasant such a special place.
Hi, this is Roger Gaither, your host for the Mount Pleasant Magazine podcast. Today, Bill Macchio, publisher of Mount Pleasant Magazine, chats with Mark Smith, president and CEO of McAlister-Smith Funeral and Cremation, and our District 99 representative to the South Carolina State House. Now, here are Bill and Mark.
And here we are again with Mount Pleasant Magazine podcast. And I'm just really honored to have us here. One of the most giving people I know in Mount Pleasant. And he's Mark Smith, and he represents
District 99.
District 99. And thanks for joining us, really, Mark. I appreciate that very much, man.
Bill, it's an honor to be here. Yours and my friendship goes back a very, very long time. And I'd be remiss if I didn't start out with a quick thank you to you and all of your team for the high quality product y'all consistently put out for Mount Pleasant. And y'all are just first class organization. The quality of your work and the place that you serve from is a wonderful place. And I hope we can dive deep later into expanding on that later in this podcast. But thank you, Bill and team, for the quality work y'all have produced.
Well, Mark, it's easy to tell the story of an awesome town like Mount Pleasant, you know. I mean, it really is. And we really focus on that. It's not about the magazine. It's about the people we serve, kind of like what you do, you know. So I wanted the listeners to get to know you from a personal standpoint, kind of up close and personal. I know, did you just have your 28th anniversary?
Wow, you did your homework for this podcast, Bill. I'm impressed. Thank you for that. This October will be 28 years
wow.
for Elaine and I. A little Southern boy met a girl from Massachusetts in mortuary school 29 years ago, and it's been a tremendous run for both of us, and really excited. She still puts up with me, and the key still fits when I come home.
Yeah, that's what I feel about Kim, my wife of 32 years, the same way. And kids, you got two? Is it two boys? Excuse me for not knowing exactly.
Three boys. We got three boys, 25, 23, and a 21-year-old.
You have any grandkids yet, Mark?
Let's don't push that. Although the oldest one, the firstborn, birthday is today, so let's give a happy birth shout out to my firstborn, Parker Smith. Today is his birthday.
I'm sure that's one of the reasons you serve. When I say serve, I really mean it. Like, what drives you to serve the community like you do, Mark?
It's interesting, Bill. What I chose to do in my professional career is obviously rooted in service, owning and working for funeral homes, helping family members deal with what could arguably be one of the worst times of their life, dealing with the death of a loved one. So when we meet people at our front doors, obviously it's not a happy occasion, and they are questioning many things in their life. And they're also in tune with their own mortality as well. And anyone who's involved in that funeral experience is also thinking about their own mortality when the death of a family member or friend happens. But all of that takes hopefully a loving professional to make some type of organization out of chaos, do it in a loving way, and find ways to retell that story of the life that was lived in a unique and fitting way that's appropriate for the life being remembered, while giving strict adherence and honoring all religious beliefs that one may be a part of or not. When you ask the question, what drives you specifically to continue to serve year after year and day after day? And I would have to say, Bill, it is probably not coincidental that stems from being reminded daily just how precious life is, and that death happens at all ages, and sometimes we get to fulfill most or all of our life bucket list and goals. And sometimes death may strike our family before we even begin to work on that list good, if death happens at a young age. So it's a short run for all of us. So I would say to anyone listening, Remember, life is short. Dream big, pursue those goals. Don't wait and put off things that you're thinking about doing for timing to be perfect or whatever circumstances may be that are oftentimes beyond our control, Bill.
Everyone's talking about real estate. The conversation continues with Voice for Real Estate podcast. Listen and learn from the experts who call the Carolinas home. Podcast advertising gives your business a voice of authority. Be heard. Advertise on this podcast. Visit voiceforrealestate.com.
You're listening to the Mount Pleasant Magazine podcast.
What is your day like? Tell us. I mean, I really want to know, and I'm sure other people want to know too, Mark. Do you mind telling us what you do?
No, I don't mind at all. And I love it because now that we're 13 weeks into the session, and a gentle reminder to everyone, here in South Carolina, we know that our elected officials in the State House, and both on the Senate side and the House side, are part-time legislators. The session starts at the beginning of January and goes through the second week of May. It can continue if the Speaker of the House or the President of the Senate extends it, which this year they will because of budget season, and it's also redistricting is happening this year as well. So the session will get extended this year, but normally the session is January through May, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So what is life like for Mark Smith in my profession? Balancing, I think, is the root of the question. How do you balance it all? I typically will have my bags packed on Sunday evening after dinner. I help with dishes and being a good husband and a wonderful meal with my wife, and pack up my bag.
What is Elaine's number? I want to call her just to check that out.
She'll see this, and many of you out there know that Elaine will vouch for that. I do all I can because service begins at home, right? Overnight bag is packed Sunday night. I come into my office. I'm sitting here in my office at our funeral home location at McAlister-Smith on Rifle Range Road in Mount Pleasant. I'll spend most of the day Monday here at this location or one of the other 5 locations and try to end my day towards the Columbia area. Our location that's closest to Columbia would be in Orangeburg County and Holly Hill, Avenger Funeral Home. So if I have any business or appointments on Monday, I try to schedule them up in Goose Creek or Holly Hill area towards the end of the day so I can end my day in Columbia, spend the night Monday night in Columbia, wake up Tuesday morning refreshed and ready to go to work at the State House. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday morning, I do the same thing. I pack my bag, and when I'm done at the State House, we'll drive back to Charleston, usually make it back to my office before the end of the day on Thursday, just to kind of clear out the mailbox, basically, and the inbox. So when I can hit the ground running on Friday morning when I'm back in the office. So
I always like the fact that you give a lot of credit to your team at McAlister-Smith. I mean, seriously, you make sure that people know that it's because of your team that is one of the reasons you're able to serve.
I am very blessed. I have wonderful funeral directors and embalmers and leaders at all 6 locations. And if it weren't for my staff, I would not be able to do what I'm able to do with giving back to the community and serve on the nonprofit boards and both formerly on Mount Pleasant Town Council and now at the State House. I
think that your communications with your constituents is superb.
Thank you for the feedback on the weekly.
Tell us, before you start, Mark, if you don't mind, tell us the URL so people can go there to register for your newsletter.
Sure. Thank you for that. The Vote Mark Smith, votemarksmith.com website. Scroll down to the bottom of the homepage and just input your name and email address. You'll get automatically subscribed to the weekly legislative update. There's no cost or obligation, and you don't have to donate money to my campaign to receive, and you don't have to be in the district to receive the newsletter as well. I think it's important for the people of South Carolina to know what's going on in Columbia, and I pray I never lose that philosophy and belief that it is not Mark Smith's seat. That seat belongs to the people in District 99, and while I do represent the District 99, I'm one of 124 House members doing the business for all of South Carolina. So we want to make sure that we're in all of our votes and all of our thinking that we think about, is this good for the state as a whole?
What are we doing to help our past veterans?
Yeah, South Carolina, we do a lot of things great. Let's acknowledge that right up front. We enjoy a wonderful quality of life and a quality of place here in the Low Country on many levels. And at the same time, let's also equally recognize there's still plenty of work to be done in many areas, from infrastructure, education, healthcare. So many issues that we need to move the needle forward, because we're not ranking on the tops of some of those results that we could have as compared to other states and other areas. And unfortunately, the money we spend on caring for our veterans in our community, we rank very, very low compared to the other states across the country. And I believe, Bill, like you believe, that we should do better and on that. And recognition is the first step. And promises made should be promises kept to our veterans. We enjoy the freedoms and the liberties we do today, which are far and vast and wide. But that didn't come without a sacrifice, and doesn't come without a continual sacrifice, with people willing to sign up and take care of our country and serving in our U.S. military. And so I believe any and everything we can, from our local VA hospital to the benefits, we should continue to find ways to lower the taxes for all of our citizens, but especially our veterans. Let's do everything we can to give back and say, thank you, we remember, and more importantly, we appreciate what you did.
Are we a very friendly, or are we a friendly retirement state? Have we made it so that our state welcomes and embraces retirees? Certainly,
Bill, you and I both know, living here in the Low Country, we certainly see a higher number of retirees moving towards the coast. And we get our fair share of what we like to call here in South Carolina as halfbacks, right? Those Northeastern folks who move to Florida, who move halfway back, because they too see the great quality of life. When you look at Forbes magazine and many of the AARP statistics, and we do very well in a lot of areas, but there's still a lot of areas we could continue to improve on in terms of our tax structure and how we can reform income tax. We enjoy a very high quality of life with moderate property tax rates, and we want to just make sure we continue to do and make prudent, conservative decisions so we can continue to enjoy those low taxes that we've been able to enjoy for so long, but also recognize that we need to make sure we're spending those tax dollars very, very wisely and improving our infrastructure issues, because it's one thing to bang on our chest and say we haven't raised taxes for a long time. And it's another thing to take a look at our roads and a lot of our infrastructure around and know that some of that neglect can no longer continue to be neglected, because it's not unlike our homes, our cars. We have to reinvest in servicing those existing roads and bridges, and continue to make sure that we're looking for innovative ways to expand and come up with alternative modes of transportation and even alternative routes to move people and product all around the state, so that we're not living through traffic nightmares that many of us for many years have grown a little weary to.
Podcast advertising is the new way to reach your best audience. Podcast advertising gives your business a voice of authority. Be heard. Advertise on one of our podcasts. Visit carolinapodcasts.com or call 843-345-7012.
You're listening to the Mount Pleasant Magazine podcast.
What issues is the closest to your heart?
What's closest to my heart? So, obviously, my story, we all relate to from where we come from. So my story is filled with love and respect towards seniors, also appreciation for hunger issues, housing issues, educational opportunities, and job creations, and an unfettered path for any entrepreneur to have the opportunity to walk out a dream they have, to provide a service or a product to the marketplace, and let the marketplace decide if that product or service is going to make it or not.
What issue in that menu you just mentioned, housing, children, education, entrepreneurialism, what really tugs at you a little bit?
Investing in our children from an educational perspective and a healthy lifestyle perspective. What does that mean? I mean specifically food in the children's belly, so when they're in the schools, they actually can focus on learning instead of the hunger in their belly. And making sure that we're investing in education and creating an opportunity for future leaders, because at some point they're going to be the next generation of leaders taking care of all of us, and our future is in our hands to a certain degree with the amount of time and energy and investment we're willing to make in that. So I think education as it relates to our children specifically would be what's really tugging. And I'm really fortunate, Bill, that as a freshman legislator, the Speaker of the House has the power for committee appointments, and I get to serve on the Education Committee as well as the Regulation and Administrative Review Committee. So those are the two committee assignments the Speaker gave me for my first year.
Something positive has to come from COVID, because this is the first time that the world, Mark, has been on the same page. We're all fighting the same battle, and we're all hopefully conquering it. What's your takeaway? What do you think South Carolina's takeaway is from the lessons they learned with COVID?
I think that question would also be shaped, and that we continue to learn from COVID, because we were not prepared for this, Bill. Let's just be candid and completely transparent on that. As a country and even as a state, we weren't prepared for this. And is it the Boy Scout motto is be prepared. And so that would probably be the biggest lesson, the biggest takeaway for me from my perspective is COVID-19 as a business professional in the community, as a husband, father, head of the household, and as a business leader and an elected official now capacity. We have got to continue to make sure that we're being good stewards of what we've been given and be prepared in any way that we can. Bill, you and I have a lot of mutual friends, business owners and employees who are now out of business and out of a job, and it had nothing to do with any poor decision that they made in running their business or leading their business. COVID-19 took away their business when they were forced to shut down. And for those businesses who were not financially prepared to weather those storms, as a small business owner, we can always read about and learn about some operational best practices, like having 2.5 or 3 months worth of cash reserve on hand so that we can weather those storms when they come. But even with 3 months worth of cash on hand, some of these businesses were shut down for months that extended well beyond 3 months. So even the best laid out and executed plans still met face to face with hard times because they had no revenue coming in. They had no ability to provide a product or a service and generate revenue, yet expenses continue to happen week after week and put many of them out of business. So for me, I keep coming back to how can we be prepared? Be prepared in our individual homes. We hear and we get the tidbits and suggestions from many local businesses, including our radio and television stations during hurricane season. Here's your checklist of items. Make sure you got your batteries and supply of water. And so how can we apply those same type of best business practices in our house, in our business, And elected officials need to make sure that we continue to make prudent decisions that are also going to create a level playing field with unfettered access for all businesses, not some businesses, not big business, small business, but all businesses, to be able to weather those kind of storms when the government says you have to close down your business.
Do you think we did everything possible?
First of all, let's give all credit where credit is due with what plans we had in place. I think many elected officials and state department heads did the very best that they could with what they had been equipped with. I don't think that, in my opinion, this is one person's opinion, I don't think that we were as prepared as we could be, but it's kind of like when a national tragedy happens, right? That's when we come together as a nation. We come together and we see that we are one nation, united under God and working very hard to take care of each other. And my fear is that as time goes on in that event, whatever that event was, if it was a 9/11 event, if it was a COVID-19 event, we become less acutely aware of what life was like during that event. I just pray we don't lose sight of that, Bill, and we continue to revisit. And instead of pointing fingers and saying who was ready, who did a great job, and who failed, let's don't spend time and energy in that negative area. Let's take all of that energy and turn it into something positive and recognize where we were and how we can make it better moving forward. I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on. That's not a Republican or a Democrat thing. That's a real life thing. How can we come together and do the right thing?
And I think one of the things that keeps you focused on some of the essential things and your willingness to give as much as you possibly can is because every day when you go to a funeral and you see those, I really feel this way, Mark. You taught me that today. This is one of the things I learned today. Anybody that's in your type of business, if they have the heart you have and the mind you have, has to be a giver. That'd be an interesting survey, wouldn't it, to go ahead and survey all the funeral directors around the country and see who gives back to their community, because I bet it's a large percentage.
Yeah, I'm sure that it is. And one thing we know is that we can't outgive God, for sure. So I think, if we can just all continue to do and focus on doing as much good as we can everywhere that we can for as long as we can, look at the difference in the end result we'll have and the powerful compounding of that good that can happen. So no matter what it is, if it's impacting one person, 20 people, or 200 people, I would hope that all of the listeners out there and all of my employees and everyone that is part of my life and in my circles, that we just continue to love on each other and lift each other up as often as best as we can.
I've got an announcement to make. The announcement is we've been calling this Voice for MP for over 20 episodes now. We're changing the name to Mount Pleasant Magazine Podcast because that's what it is. Thanks for being on Mount Pleasant Magazine Podcast.
All right.
Seriously, Mark, I've enjoyed this a lot. It's been nice seeing you. We haven't talked in a while, so thanks again for being on Mount Pleasant Magazine Podcast, Mark.
Thank you for what you guys do.
Thanks for spending your time with the Mount Pleasant Magazine Podcast. Your community, your podcast. Listen to past and future episodes at mountpleasantpodcast.com.